Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, 5Ks, 10Ks, Marathons, and the AlterG. I'm going to hand it over to Michael Coe, one of our co-presenters of the webinar today.
Thanks, Megan. And thanks again to everyone for attending this. Our goal here is to provide you guys, physical therapists, with some general guidance and training principles to get your patients ready for road races, and also to incorporate the AlterG into that training. So real quick, before we get started, some introductions. My name is Michael Coe. I work with the sports team at AlterG. My background actually comes, I was a 1,500-meter runner at Cal, which was one of the first universities to get the AlterG over 5 years ago. So I've been training on the AlterG regularly, including as a professional athlete for the Bay Area Track Club. I'll be presenting with Jimmy Bean, who's our national sports manager, and he also has a background in coaching. He coached at the University of Washington, so he's a very good source of knowledge with coaching as well as using the AlterG. So one key theme that we'd really like to get across is the fact that our training principles are pretty basic, and because of that, they are universal for all ability levels. So that's your beginner level runner, your intermediate level, and your expert level runner. All right, so road racing has actually seen a recent boom in the last couple of years. You can see some numbers on this slide. Some statistics for you: 14 million finishers in road races in 2011. So that's a pretty big number, and that kind of begs the question of, why is this important to PT clinics? Well, it's a big patient population. The nature of the sport of running, a lot of people do get injured, and you can see on here, 8 out of 10 runners get injured at least once a year. So because of that, it's very important for people to rehab and have the right setting for training. So a PT clinic, especially a PT clinic with the AlterG, is an ideal setting for that. One of the most important things in getting your runners to improve is to make the training fun and engaging. That's very important before any pace recommendations and any technical stuff. Is you got to make sure it's fun for them. Keep them focused. Get them excited about trying to hit their PR in their next race, to set goals, and just to boost their confidence. And the AlterG is a great tool to help assist that. I know from my personal experience that having the AlterG to come back to on like a Monday or Tuesday after a hard long run I might have done over the weekend, it kind of recharges me, and you can use the same principles with your patients to kind of get them feeling good running. And the great thing about the AlterG is you get that unweighted experience, so you're feeling good about running, and you might be sore, you might be a little tired from the weekend, and that's a great way to keep people coming back to your clinic, and also to improve on their times. So I'm going to hand it off to Jimmy to talk a little bit about the type of athletes and patients that you're going to be working with.
Thank you, Michael. So I think one thing that you guys are all kind of inclined to is that you're all looking at the AlterG as a way to improve the experience of the people that come into your clinic. And I think one of the things that I focus on as a coach is I want to improve the quality of the athlete and their experience. And so one of the things that I go back to is a Division III coach named Al Carius. He's from North Central College in Illinois, and had he been a Division I coach and decided to do that, probably be one of the more well-known coaches in the world, but has been the most successful coach in Division III. And his motto with his athletes is run for fun and personal best. So I try to emphasize that with any athlete that I'm working with, and then in general with your beginner runners. And so when we're talking about why use the AlterG for race training or why use it to try to build upon your personal fitness, it is for that fun perspective, because we all know once we get in the AlterG, some of that pain is alleviated, some of the effort is alleviated if someone's not as fit as they might want to be. It can help bridge that gap. And then also for the athlete that is like a Michael Coe, who's trying to maybe break 4 minutes for the mile this spring, he may want to use that to help bridge some of those goals that he's trying to get to. And obviously, you guys, when you're looking at the people that are coming to your clinic, there are going to be two types of people. They're going to be the injured athletes that are maintaining and developing fitness during their recovery, and you want to use that to develop the cardiovascular, the strength, and the speed that they're trying to create. And then you have your non-injured that just want to come in and say, hey, I've heard about the AlterG. I'd like to use it to supplement my training for local road 5K, 10K, half marathon, maybe even the marathon. And so one of those things is that Michael alluded to is making it fun for them. And so I think you guys all are in this to work with people, and so you guys probably do a good job of getting a gauge on where the person is at. And so when we're starting with 3 different types of runners or 3 types of people that you're going into, you're going to have a beginner, so someone that comes in and maybe doesn't have any type of goal in mind. They don't have any type of idea what they really want to do. And then they're basically in your hands now. And you can kind of define those race goals for them. And I think one way of doing that is, as a coach for myself, when I'm thinking about coaching a 5K athlete, and let's say they want to break 14 minutes for the 5,000 meters or 15 minutes, which may seem very fast for the ordinary person, the athlete themselves thinks that's not very fast, and they're trying to get there as quickly as possible. For the beginner, you may need to speed them up, and you guys are so good in your clinic working with people from their injuries, getting to them where they need to be, and working with them psychologically. And so a lot of those things may be, hey, I just want to run for a mile. I just want to run for 5 minutes pain-free. And so you can start them there, and that's a goal, and that's good. And you want to set those goals. So I think when Al said run for fun and personal best, maybe 5 minutes running at 60% body weight is their goal. And then you can build out, and later on in the slide you'll see kind of a 4-week window of a 9-week interactive calendar that will show you for maybe a half marathon training program. But starting back at that one day, you've got them in there for 10 minutes, you've got them there for 20 minutes, you've got their attention, and you want to say, hey, what kind of goals do we want to, immediate goals do we want to set? The intermediate and the expert runners, maybe they already know a little bit more, and so you can kind of have that back and forth dialogue. But with your beginner runners, you can really kind of set that template for them and say, hey, we want to run for 10 minutes today, pain-free, and that's a good place to start. The place we all want to start when we're working with an athlete, for myself as a coach, or maybe Michael's asking himself when he's thinking about his training, or maybe you're working with someone that's inside and maybe they don't even know about running. They don't know there's 5Ks, or they don't know a half marathon, what that actually means, is getting a good feel for that and asking them questions. And I think the first question is actually the 3rd bullet point down for you guys is, what injuries are bothering you? And that's where your expertise lies starting out. And so that's a good place. It's a good medium for you to start with. And I think that most of the time when talking with an athlete, I would say to them, hey, what's the premier event for you this year? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? With you, you may want to start with, what injuries are bothering you? What's holding you back from being pain-free? What's holding you back from being more fit? And start there. And then around that, we can start building some goals on, hey, maybe we want to do a couple easy runs per week. We want to start in with a few up-tempo runs per week. And Michael will get into more of those ideas and concepts in our later slides. But the good thing that you guys have, we all have now with Michael talking about the boom in running, is we have all these events built in our communities where we have a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon. And even at AlterG, we have this corporate DMR relay coming up at the 10 relays that a few of our employees have worked towards, and it's become a fun topic of conversation. I think it's motivated a lot of people to become more fit, and it's been something I think that will motivate people company-wide to kind of get going. And so I think it's not just in your community. It may be within your own clinic. It may be within somebody else's company in your community to kind of get them going and building these goals. Really, they can be sometimes typecast as arbitrary, but I think giving people goals and a sense of accomplishment, utilizing AlterG is a really effective tool.
Okay, so when you're coming up with a basic training plan for your patients, one thing that is really important to think about is how much quantity, that's your total weekly mileage, versus the quality, the amount of intensity, the speed work, and you add those two together and that makes your total training plan. And it ends up being a very important balance. So generally speaking, if your quantity is lower for a certain week, like the total miles are lower, you want to actually increase the quality, so a little bit more intensity. So for me, personally, I might have a week where I'm running 50 or 60 miles, and that's a pretty high mileage week. So therefore, I'm going to take the intensity down a little bit. And some weeks I might back off and do a little more like 30 or 40 miles, in which case I'll do more speed work, more intensity. So, and this, again, this works for all level athletes, all level patients, to make sure that, you know, you have the right balance. You don't want to overload them with mileage and intensity, and you also don't want to do too little of each as well. So anyway, the runs that you're going to have people doing on the AlterG will generally fall into one of these 5 categories, and this also works for runs outside as well, and that's easy runs, long runs, tempo runs, speed intervals, and hill repeats, and I'll get into a little bit more in defining what each of these categories mean. So first of all, your easy run. This one is pretty self-explanatory. An easy run is easy, comfortable, conversational. It's also, you know, it can be for a varied amount of time. You know, an easy run could be 15 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. It can also be 30 or 45 minutes long. It's more just about your heart rate, how you're feeling. So, you know, you don't want to be getting above like 85% of your maximum heart rate for an easy run. You want to keep it much lower than that so you, like I said, you can have a conversation and you feel like you have everything under control. All right, your long run. So this is a very important once-a-week tool to give your patients. And again, this is for all the levels of runners. I do a long run every Sunday. It's a great way for me to kind of get that, you know, get the system of longevity of a run, feeling like I can sustain a pretty hard effort for a while. So this is done 1 time per week, and it's a little bit faster paced than your easy run. And a general rule of thumb for the long run is that it's 20% of your weekly mileage. So again, if I'm going to use the 50 miles per week example, I would do about a 10-mile long run. And, you know, if you have some patient who's running 20 or 25 miles in a week, you know, you cut that number in half. That's about, you know, about 5 miles for your long run. So it definitely is not an all-out effort. It's steady and controlled. So those first 2, easy and long run that we just talked about, that's going to be the focus for your beginner level patient. But for your intermediate and expert level runners, you're going to incorporate much more tempo runs. And what a tempo run is, it's a hard but controlled effort. So it's not completely comfortable, and in terms of your heart rate, it's about 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. Another rule of thumb for a tempo is that it's a pace that you can hold for 20 minutes. So it's not quite all out, but it's much faster than your long run pace. So I'll use a personal example again. Say if I'm trying to run a 5K around 15 minutes or faster, that my race pace would be about 4 minutes and 45 seconds for the mile. And for a tempo pace, you actually add a little bit of time from your race pace, about 15 or 20 seconds. So my tempo pace comes out to about 5 minutes per mile. So if you use someone who's running 21 or 22 minutes for a 5K, their tempo pace is usually going to be around 7 to 7.5 minutes per mile. And you can, you know, adjust accordingly. Jimmy will talk a little bit more about how you prescribe paces using a few different resources that we have. Okay, so this next slide kind of shows you some example workouts that you can utilize using tempo pace. So on the top, the tempo 1 is just a general example workout where you do a 1-mile warm-up, and then you do 3 miles at your tempo pace, and then a 1-mile cool down. So again, I just talked about what a tempo pace is. That might be about, you know, 7 to 7:30 per mile for a 21-minute 5K runner. I'm not going to go through all the different workouts here, but this is, I should note that we're actually going to send all you guys templates in an Excel doc and an interactive training log for you guys. So you'll be able to use some of these example workouts and also incorporate your own using our principles. So, and then on the bottom, there's some AlterG workout examples that also incorporate tempo pace. And I'll let Jimmy talk a little bit about speed.
So Michael's talking to you a little bit about easy runs, and then maybe the extension of your easy run is a long run, and then now you're getting into tempo runs, which are a little more advanced. And it takes a little bit of conversation about how you want to feel, and Michael talked about being comfortable, you know, a comfortably hard pace. And then speed intervals is something that maybe we all kind of think, hey, that might be something for a distance runner or a sprinter to use. But for your everyday beginner or intermediate person, they may want to say, hey, I want to do some strides, you might call them, is from 30 to 60 seconds long, just picking up the tempo. And it is going to be a little bit quick, and you want it to be rhythmic, and you want to also focus on mechanics. And the great thing about the AlterG is you have windows around the machine that give you an idea of how they're mechanically moving. You can watch body posture from the feet all the way to the head, and you can give them direct feedback with the AlterG. Now, if they're going to be doing this on their own, you want to really remind them that focusing upon mechanics is more important than the actual speed itself. The speed will come. The times maybe they're trying to run 200 meters on the track. Those times will come down, but what you don't want to do is have a breakdown of mechanics. And I think you guys all understand that. And so when we're focusing upon this for speed intervals, is you want to develop that turnover without any stress upon the lower body. And so a good way of thinking about that, and when I would talk to athletes, is you want to look like, anytime you watch somebody at the Olympic Games and they run the 100 meters, is you want to look like that person. You just want to look effortless and face forward, chin up, shoulders straight across. And a good way of doing that is that a lot of people aren't going to have those proper mechanics in-house. And so then you can give them direct feedback. They can focus on it while they're in your clinic, and they can walk away feeling like, hey, I made some progress today. And maybe it's not on a piece of paper that I ran 200 meters really, really fast, but I did make some progress on my own running. One thing that I'd also mention, and we will give you guys some documents, is a great resource with regards to some of this, and if you guys have the time, it's probably your local library. If you wanted to go out and purchase it, Jack Daniels, and it's not the whiskey, but there's a coach, exercise physiologist who's well-renowned in the running community, and he breaks it down, a lot of this stuff, into easy runs, long runs, and he does have charts and calendars on how to prescribe pace. And so each person is different, obviously, but he does a good job of kind of relating to everyday runners as well as expert runners. The other thing is there's a guy named Greg McMillan who is in Flagstaff, Arizona, has a sub-elite to elite group. He's coached a lot of very good marathon runners, really great guy. And he has come out with a chart that you can basically go online and calculate your paces. And we will provide that link later on as well to you. You can see it below. It's McMillanRunning.com. And that's a good resource for people to kind of get an idea of, hey, where am I at? Where do I want to go? And there is a kind of a timeline you have to follow. Some people maybe, are fit, able-bodied individuals, and they kind of blow the chart away a little bit. But for the most part, you want people on a progressive pattern, and this is a good way to do that. When talking about like a kind of a long-term plan, and obviously you guys want to talk to people inside your, however, if you've got a 5-minute window with them, or if you've got a 20-minute window with them, you're not going to have time to talk to them about 9 weeks. But you can build a kind of a general program if they're going to build towards a half marathon in the community, or maybe if they're going, it's a destination trip for them. They're going across a few states to make it a fun destination trip for them, and they do want to make it a kind of a plan or a chart, a path to get there. This is a good way of looking at it throughout a week. And I think the one thing that I'd always remind athletes, it's very easy to get ahead of yourself and think, hey, what do I have 3 weeks from now? And how do I get there? And how do I run faster? And a good way for you guys to develop a good relationship with particularly beginner runners, I think, and in coaching in my relationship with athletes, is reminding them, enjoy the day. And so if you've got an easy run today, make it easy. If you've got a tempo run today, don't make it a speed interval. Make it a tempo run. And when you focus on those things and every day has a purpose, then all of a sudden it feeds off each other. And we all have, with working with adults, I'm not working with college athletes anymore, so they don't have a 3 or 4 hour academic calendar. You've got an 8-hour workday or a 9-hour workday, and then all of a sudden you want to try to train. And so there's a lot of other things. You've got family life, and you've got your personal life, and you've got all these other things going on. And so some days you may need to adjust. And so this is simply a template that we're providing. We also want you to be able to say, hey, you know what, how was your day? You had a long day at work, or a tough work week, or, hey, you're a little more relaxed today? Okay, maybe we can bump up a couple miles today. And that conversation it's a give and take, and it's pretty basic conversation, but it also gives you another place to relate to your customers with regards to their running.
I'll actually chime in here. This slide that you see with this interactive training log, like I mentioned before, we're actually going to send this to you in an Excel doc, so you can actually have this template available. And as you can see the numbers on here, you can put in your mileage for Tuesday, for Thursday, for Sunday, and the goal part is your goal mileage, so that's what you're going to give to your patients to, to plan your week, and then below that, your actual mileage. So this is a great template that translates to how I would train. I see the Sunday long run every week there with, the 8, 9 miles, 10 miles, whatever it is. But, yeah, I mean, based on the ability level of the patient that you're working with, this could be a great resource for you to have and create a training plan with our principals. So one question that you may get from some of your patients or runners is, how many miles do you log when you're incorporating the AlterG? So we actually did a clinical study on this, and a rule of thumb is that for every 10% that you take off in body weight, you actually have to add 0.6 miles per hour to get the same effort, the same amount of calories that you burn. So a lot of runners will actually log, the same amount of miles that they do on the AlterG with how many miles they do on land at full body weight. But this formula makes a little bit of an adjustment, and that's something if someone's running on the AlterG every day, you want to make that adjustment accordingly. So an example at the bottom here is a 30-minute run at 7 miles per hour at 80% of your body weight. On the AlterG, that's a 3.5-mile run. But in terms of real miles, using our formula, it actually comes out to 2.9. So a little bit of an adjustment. This isn't like a crucial thing, but it's definitely something to note because you might get this question asked.
So one thing that Michael talked about earlier on is the number of population of runners now, and then 8 out of 10 of them are now injured at one point during the year. And I'm sure that most of you have probably targeted your local running store, running clubs, and high school coaches. Another area is just in general that we have a resource on our web site, the zip code locator, and you can push in individuals if they're calling in your clinic, say, hey, we do have the AlterG. We do have an opportunity to provide a G-Buck to you for a 10-minute demo run for free, and it gives them that first experience. And a lot of people on our website now are going to that. They opt in to look on where AlterG might be in their area, and they can come find you. Going out to other people, I mentioned before that, our company is doing a Penn Relays DMR. It consists of a runner starting out with a 1,200 meter, which is 3 laps around the track, 400 meters, 1 lap around the track, 800 meters, and then off to a mile. And it's created a lot of energy among several of our employees, and I think that's going to spread. And I think, talking to other companies that you're involved with in your community and saying, hey, do you guys have any fitness initiatives? And if so, the AlterG is a great tool to help people reach their goals. And the more that you're able to talk to these people one-on-one individually about their goals, I think they're going to spread and say, hey, why don't you go down to this so-and-so's clinic, because I think it's really going to help you garner some of your goals that you're looking for. And then, as you guys are thinking about target populations, always feel free to reach out to whether it's our marketing group. Michael and my email addresses are available on our website. So anytime you guys have any questions about, hey, is this a good target population for us to reach out to, we'd love to be involved with that, and we've had a lot of good interaction with running communities. Michael, for example, in the Bay Area Track Club, they're very involved in the community, and they have access to AlterGs. And I will say also, among the 4 runners in our relay, that they're all utilizing AlterG to get to their goals. And Michael's a more advanced runner, and we have some that are more of your intermediate runners, but are utilizing that because they also have full work weeks, and they want to be able to try to reach some of their goals while they're running on the track. And so as you guys are thinking about that and thinking about ways to bring people in your facility, feel free to reach out to us. We know that at times that you want to be able to give people this resource, and at times it's just difficult to know how to do that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar. We're going to take questions in just a minute, but before that, I want to announce a new video testimonial contest we're going to be running. This is the first contest we've ever done. After this webinar is over, you can visit our Facebook page to see how to enter We're looking for videos that are going to be 1 minute or less. Anybody who's used the AlterG is welcome to join. We just want to hear your story, why you love the AlterG so much and how it's helped you. We're going to be offering 3 prizes. Third place will be receiving a $50 gift card and a pair of AlterG shorts. Second place will receive a $100 gift card, a pair of shorts, and a T-shirt. And the first prize is for $200, a pair of shorts, and a T-shirt. So visit our Facebook page afterwards, or you can email us at marketing@alter-g.com if you have any questions about entering. Feel free to type in your questions into the chat box. Michael and Jimmy are here to answer them for you.
Perhaps before we get to any questions that you guys might have, one thing I forgot to mention is there is a distinct difference between the 5K, 10K trainers that you're going to have coming in versus a half marathon. And one of the things that I think that all of us that will want to understand as we're talking about the half marathon experience is that people talk about that meltdown mile or hit the wall, so to speak, and that's your body just embracing the impact of gravity over 13.1 miles or 26.2 miles. The AlterG is a great tool, and in this arena, I would say, just in my experience, is that it does come with some limitations for those events. And you want to have people going into the half marathon or marathon knowing what 10 or 11 miles feels like at 13, and you want them to know what 18 to 20 miles feels like at 100% body weight going towards that 26.2 mile goal. So as people come in and say, hey, I want to use the AlterG, and I want to go on my long runs on the AlterG, I would really talk to them about, hey, do you think that might help you reach your goals, and talk about that experience. Where the 5K, 10K, the body really doesn't take on that much in terms of the gravity, and you're not going to experience some of those meltdown miles or hitting the wall, as some people might say. So if you're talking to people, that's a good conversation piece, and say, hey, we can't help build mileage. So if you're trying to, like Michael mentioned, that 20% weekly mileage for the long run is really important for a half marathon event. So in order to make that long run a little bit longer, you need to build your weekly mileage. And so in order to do that, a great tool is the AlterG. So maybe your secondary run during the week, or maybe your easy run in the middle of the week, maybe you want that to go from 6 miles to 10 miles. And a good way to do that is utilizing AlterG, but you still want to have that impact when you're going to half marathon or marathon training. But it can help build that total volume, so then you can do a little bit more on the long run side. You can maybe do a little bit longer tempo run, and that enables you to get ready a little bit more efficiently for the half marathon. Hope that makes some sense.
Okay, so we have a question about hills. One of our guests lives in a flat city and wants to know if there are small, short hills for intense training.
I could talk a little about my own personal stuff. Jimmy, did you want to talk more general from a coaching perspective?
Yeah, I would say living in a flat community, I think that's a great question to have asked. You do want to be able to get one of the key elements out of being able to do hill training is that mechanical ability to drive through when you are experiencing some fatigue. And so the AlterG is a great place to do that because you can actually watch that fatigue. You can also focus upon mechanics, whereas the hills, when you're running across a hill, your mechanics might break down. You can focus with them on that in the AlterG. And I think it's a good way to get some fitness. You want to be careful about the amount of hills you're doing because a lot of times it will put some undue stress on the body. And so, we're talking about doing some short hills. A lot of people have found that probably in the last 5 to 6 years, hills have become short 60-meter hills. So you could do that. 60 meters for the average person might take them anywhere from 12 to 18 seconds. So you could just say, hey, let's do a 15 to 20-second bout going uphill. And you could obviously you guys all know the incline features of the AlterG, and so you can utilize it that way. From a coaching perspective, I would really be careful of making sure that you're getting an awareness of how they feel the following day, and you're easing people into the effect of doing hills, particularly if they're only accustomed to usually running on flat surfaces.
I'll chime in too. So with hill repeats, this can be, there's actually a wider range for how long a repeat interval can be. I've done hill repeats where it's, it's up to 2 or 3 minutes out there, like, on the roads, running up a mountain or something. But you can also make it shorter and do like, 30-second or 45-second hill intervals. And this works on land, and it also works on the AlterG. As Jimmy talked about, the incline feature goes up to 15%, so you can adjust the AlterG accordingly and really get your heart rate up to above 90%. Those hill repeats, just because of the nature of the muscles that you're working and the cardio that you're also doing at the same time, you really get your heart rate up very high. And yeah, so we can also send some examples of how hill workouts can be incorporated within your interactive training plan.
Thanks, guys.
Megan, I'm sorry, one more thing. Another great tool, and I think we haven't focused on it as much, but we have talked about perceived effort. So you're getting an idea, feedback in general from runners on saying, hey, this is how I felt today. And hills are going to be the same way. Heart rate monitors are a great tool, and some people might get carried away with them a little bit or maybe not utilize them enough. If you do have the access to those inside your facility, they can be a great way to test if you're inside that zone you want to be in. And again, that Daniel's book is a great place because he can see, he'll show you where target heart rate will want to be during a hill workout. Thank you, Megan.
Okay, no problem. We have another question. Our clinical specialist, Jake and Chen's going to help us answer. For runners who are rehabbing with a metatarsal stress fracture, is there a certain protocol to follow, or do you just adjust per patient response?
That's a really good question. I think the way I treat it is just like you would when you want to immobilize someone. If someone's in pain, then you usually place in a boot or some type of supportive device so they're not experiencing any more stress to the bone. Because the thing is, we don't really know what goes on in the bone. We're not really able to measure that objectively, but we can get patient response as far as pain. So when the patient is pain-free, then my assumption is they're not placing any more stress to the bone. So if they're not immobilized, they're able to walk pain-free, then I assume that the ground reaction forces aren't increasing stress. So if they can tolerate that, then we can increase speed a little bit. They can try to get up to a little bit of a jog in the AlterG. And if they start to experience anything, then you can adjust body weight appropriately. And what I say for people is you cannot increase more than 10%. Overload. You don't want to overload the tissue as it's healing. So you can't increase more than 10% per session. And you have to make sure that the patient has no symptoms once they complete their training session. If they have symptoms, they're not allowed to increase the body weight the next session.
Thanks, Draken. The next question we have, how much would you unload for short runs versus long runs and beginners to expert level?
I can help answer that. So in terms of short runs versus long runs, I wouldn't say it needs to be different based on the amount of time you're running. One of the key things that you have to, that it's dependent on is where you're at. If you're an injured runner, if you're coming back from maybe a stress fracture or an IT band issue, you're going to want to unweight yourself a lot more. So you might want to start at like 60%. This is just a general guess, but I would say in the like 50% to 70% window for someone who's coming back from an injury. If you're a healthy athlete and you're just using the AlterG to supplement your training a couple times a week, 75, 80% is kind of a general ideal body weight percentage to go with. And again, it doesn't make a difference whether you're going short versus long. You still want to use those guidelines for unweighting.
It's a great point with Michael, just that there's two little different variables of being injured versus non-injured. And then I also think just communicating with folks saying, hey, when you're going for your long run and let's say we drop you down to even 85%, and you have a 200-pound individual, you're taking 30 pounds of impact off their body. And so that's a great resource, and you can talk to people about saying, hey, what if we were to throw a 30-pound vest on you? How would that feel? And so we've taken that effect off. The whole goal is, like we got back to, is you want those easy runs to be nice and comfortable, and you want to be able to gain some fitness. So heart rate's a good place to start, or perceived effort. But you also want those easy days to be easy. So if they're coming in one day and they say, hey, I usually run at 85%, but man, I really feel tired today, well, then you can say, okay, let's back it back down to 80 or maybe even 75, as Michael mentioned. And then with your injured folks, you do want that pain-free state. Even Jake had mentioned with the metatarsal injury, you want to start in a pain-free state and then incrementally increase from there. You know, and having kind of a weekly goal chart of, hey, we started at 55%, and in 2 weeks we want to be at 72%. And you can build those out, and then when you have maybe a setback pain-wise, you can always build it back and let them run pain-free inside the AlterG.
We have another clinical question about research for individuals who have had hip or knee replacements and running on the AlterG.
So we actually do have a completed research study on total knee replacements and jogging in the AlterG. This is our e-knee study that was completed at Scripps in San Diego. And what it was 4 total knee patients who had a smart implant placed in their knee, which was able to measure actual joint compression force. They were run through a protocol on the AlterG, and they found that running or jogging for these patients in the AlterG at 50% body weight was the equivalent joint compression as walking outside of the AlterG.
Thanks, Jakin. Jimmy, if you could help answer this one, we have a question about AlterGs and fitness centers. How successful has it been, and have there been challenges in allowing the general public to use it and with maintenance?
So we have a few fitness centers that are utilizing the AlterG. I think one of the main positives for them is that they do have a different population that are typically healthy, uninjured individuals are coming in and utilizing it. That they kind of get the avid runners that really want to utilize the AlterG and the technology. Some of the challenges that we face is, one is staffing and building a calendar, and we can certainly help with that from a standpoint of being able to give you a calendar that we've shown other people, setting up a membership style status, which some of you guys utilize in your own clinics. And then I think the upkeep in general, we give a pretty good manual and guide on how to upkeep the machine, and I think we've been pretty proactive. We've had a few issues here and there, but our service team is really proactive with regards to making sure that everybody's belt and service and maintenance is taken care of with regards to the AlterG. I'm not sure if that's kind of the basic status, but I think inside a fitness center, we've talked with several boutique smaller facilities that are able to staff it and manage it on their own. They found a lot of success with regards to the AlterG and found a lot of energy around it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jimmy. That about wraps it up for us here. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us at marketing@alter-g.com. We're going to be sending out a recording of this webinar as well as the slides, and we'll be sending out the training template, the Excel spreadsheet that Michael had put together and shown you earlier today. Once again, thanks everybody for attending, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us.